Okay, guys, well, this is part 2 of the 7 flawed soul attributes. And in this video, I wanted to discuss in more detail the behaviors that we want to avoid if we are to be in alignment with our hearts and pass judgment. Now, what happens is at the end of a 26,000 year cycle, the light from Orion returns and basically illuminates our hearts. And everything within our hearts is revealed to God. And our God is Osiris. And our God is located in the Orion Nebula. For those who don't pass judgment, for those with the flawed souls, they return to Atum. And Atum is the galactic center. This is infinite God energy without consciousness. And so the souls are returned to Atum completely devoid of their essence, completely devoid of who they were. They are returned just to become energy once again and be used by Orion or any of the other nebulas that are also God consciousness to be birthed as souls once again. Those that pass judgment are rewarded with the gift of all knowledge and all knowing. And this is Zet Tepi. And this cycle is infinite. And this is why we are infinite, because we really are our souls and we really are immortal. But to be rewarded with immortality, we have to live a life as a good soul in alignment with our heart. And this is why we were given these guidelines. And that's what they are. They're guidelines. You don't need to follow them to the T. You don't need to carry them around with you and refer to them, whenever you're challenged by a certain situation to make sure that you're in alignment with your heart. Being in alignment with your heart is just wanting to be a good person. It's not trying to be a good person. It's wanting to be a good person. It's being a good person. And it's interesting that all of these behaviors are encouraged by the power elite and by the media. Basically people are told that this is normal to behave in this way. In fact, if you don't behave in this way, you are different from everybody else. It's actually more acceptable to be an asshole than to be a good person. And especially if you are in the corporate world or in some type of career where you have to basically step on the bottom guy to get your way to the top. And as I said, this is encouraged. I mean, in the 80s, we saw, greed is good. We saw materialism really pushed as though that is who we are. If you are someone with a big house and a big car and lots of stuff, then you must be a successful person. And basically, that is something that you want to avoid, because that is gluttony. For you to have excess in materialism, for you to think that you are your car or your big screen TV or your house, is basically you existing in gluttony and you existing in greed. So you really need to move beyond these behaviors. As I said, using these behaviors as a guideline, you need to move back into alignment with your heart and be the good soul that you need to be to pass coming judgment. Now, a lot of this information has been really manipulated by the religious corporations. So it's always good to go back to the purest source of information you can find. And I found it interesting on this link that we see that in the book of Proverbs, that there were 7 behaviors that they wrote. And this was a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plots, feet that are swift to run into mischief, a deceitful witness that utters lies, and him that soweth discord among brethren. So once again, brethren. So once again, that's something that you can basically use as a guideline. It's not written in stone. But let's have a look at these other attributes that we need to avoid. Lust or lechery. An intense desire. It is usually thought of as an excessive sexual want. However, the word was originally a general term for desire. Therefore, lust could involve the intense desire of money, fame, or power as well. So that is pretty self-explanatory. It has nothing to do with finding someone sexually attractive. It has to do with the excess of that behavior, the excess of finding money desirable, the excess of finding fame desirable, when that is all that motivates who you are. Gluttony, derived from the Latin glutire, meaning to gulp down or swallow. Gluttony, an overindulgence or overconsumption of anything to the point of waste. In Christian religions, it is considered a sin because of the excessive desire for food and its withholding from the needy. So all of us are really living in a form of gluttony if we are in the Western world, because we have an excess of food at the expense of the poorer countries that don't need to be hungry. It's only because of the matrix that we're hardwired into and the way they run the matrix that this occurs. So we can't really change a lot of what is in this system because it's beyond our ability to do so. But as long as we have the understanding that there are people going without, and when we do have food, that we're not just being excessive with that food, then really I don't think we need to worry. But interesting, that we see the Christian religions considering this a sin, and then we look at the Vatican and we look how they live. As I've said, the religious corporations, the Vatican, the Paralegal, they've all done a deal with the devil. They know that they are just going to be wiped from existence, so they don't care. They are just living a life of total excess at our expense, and basically have led all of these indoctrinated people down the wrong path. I mean, they were the false prophets that they were warned about, and they didn't listen. All they needed to really do was take the information for themselves and apply it to their own lives. And obviously that's far too hard for some people to do because they want to all be saved. They all want to take a shortcut. Everybody wants the shortcut. Nobody wants to do the hard work. Nobody wants to look at themselves in the mirror and actually do what it takes to move beyond the bullshit. They just want to be excused. And so they go and find anything that will save them from having to actually look at themselves and do this work and, move beyond these behaviors. The next one we have is greed, also known as avarice or covetousness. It's like lust and gluttony, a sin of excess. I mean, greed is pretty self-explanatory. Once again, it is the want for money, it is the want for power, it is the want for money at the expense of everything else. And we see this in people all the time. How many times have we seen families torn apart because a parent or grandparent has died and left a will, and the next minute we have everybody fighting over this money? That is greed. That is not being in alignment with your heart. Money is an illusion. That is why they call money the root of all evil, because it is. They knew that when they introduced money, that all of these behaviors would become commonplace. Because when you look at these behaviors, they all are linked back to money. So money is an illusion. Money is not needed. Money was never needed. And for those people who cannot imagine a reality without money, then really you are way behind the 8 ball, and you really need to work very hard to move beyond that programming and move beyond that conditioning. I see a lot of people who claim to be awake, very, very hardwired to the matrix. A lot of them are really in no way able to perceive a different reality. They think that the reality that we are currently living is the one that is in truth, and it isn't. So we need not worry about any of the bullshit that's taking place on the political scene, to do with the internet, to do with gun control. It's all illusion. It's not real anymore. And what we need to do is withdraw ourselves from thinking that that is actually something that we are going to have to live and experience in the coming times, because we are not going to experience that. When this light returns, everything will suddenly just cease to be as it once was. And our reality will absolutely change completely. We will not even recognize the reality that we once knew. And this, unfortunately, won't come until all hell has broken loose on this planet. There will be World War III, and it will get very ugly. But as the Hopi say, those that remember the original teachings will not be touched. And so if you extract yourself from the 3D, and when I say 3D, I'm talking about the Matrix, okay? We live in 3D. I mean, it's just the way I am wording what I call fake land or the Matrix. So we need to withdraw and extract ourselves from that crap and not pay attention to it so much anymore. Sure, you want to know what's going on. You don't want to be completely ignorant to everything, but you just want to see enough so that you have an idea of the timing of events, of what's going on. But really, you want to start moving within and looking at other information, especially information like this, because this helps you understand the truth of reality. Because until you can perceive reality, you will not experience it. So if you can only perceive the reality that they show you as being your truth, then that is what you will experience. And if you are truly connected within and you are truly connected to Mother Earth, you will be where you need to be to seek shelter when all hell breaks loose on this planet. And as soon as all hell breaks loose on this planet, that is when the light returns. So just know that yes, it is going to get ugly. And so it's really important that you do move back within your own center and reconnect in with who you really are and Mother Earth. Okay, sloth. This is sometimes defined as physical laziness, but also spiritual laziness is emphasized. Failing to develop spiritually is key to becoming guilty of sloth. Now, I find that interesting, especially when I think about Buddhists that go and meditate in some cave for 10 years. That is spiritual sloth. God does not want to know what you do inside a cave. God needs to see you in action so he can determine what's in your heart. So if you're just locking yourself away so you don't experience anything, good or bad, then that is spiritual sloth. You need to experience the challenges that God puts forward for you, because all of our lives have already been predestined. And we only have free will in which path we take. But that same path, or those two paths, all lead to the same destination. So imagine a river and how it all starts to branch out, but at the end of the day, that river eventually goes to the sea. That's basically what happens with our life. We all get the choice to take different paths, the higher path or the lower path, but at the end of the day, we're all going to end up in the same place. And so if you are extracting yourself from life, extracting yourself from anything, just so you don't stuff up at all, well, then that is spiritual sloth. And that is also what I see a lot of New Agers doing. Only focusing on the good, only ever looking at the good, only ever meditating and thinking about, what's positive and what's loving, pretending that in a hellhole that we're currently experiencing, that everything's really just love and light. That is spiritual sloth. So, that's something that a lot of people really need to look at. Wrath. Now, this is something that I have sometimes a little bit of a problem with, but I've come to understand that wrath is actually just a hate for somebody, just a bitterness and resentment and hate that you can't let go, where you want to destroy them, that nothing else matters, that you just want to destroy someone. And so that is not healthy. You need to move beyond wrath. But in saying that, you don't want to be pissed off with someone and then pretend you're not either, because then that is not being truthful. So, if someone annoys you, let them know, give it to them. But at the same time, recenter yourself after you've done that and move on. Don't hold hatred for that person. And it looks like I'm going to have to do a part 3, guys. Okay, well, I'll leave it here and I'll be back with part 3. Peace out.